Hi, I'm Glen Anderson with the Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation. The Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation's TV program explores a variety of issues that relate to peace, social justice, and nonviolent social change. In modern America, people generally recognize that giant impersonal systems have too much power and often they oppress us. These include big business corporations that do a lot of horrible things to people and the environment, and big impersonal systems also include governmental processes like the Pentagon that conduct wars in defiance of public opinion and that also protect big business instead of the public interest. So the problems that we face often seem so huge and we seem so powerless. People have tried to promote peace and social justice and the environment and a whole lot of progressive change, but for decades and even now, big business and the government keep pushing us back. And as a result, a lot of people feel frustrated, they feel powerless, they feel despair and even depression. And people who want to promote some change just feel demoralized and often give up. But when we look around our local community here in Olympia, we find that many people have been successfully organizing grassroots nonprofit organizations that meet our needs, our political, social, economic, cultural, and environmental needs. We don't need to submit to big, nasty systems. We can empower ourselves and really strengthen a very practical kind of democracy. And so that's what we'll be talking about during this program. For example, the Tulip Credit Union has been operating successfully for 5 years. And some of the other local solutions that we have from the grassroots up have been operating for 15, 20, 25 years. The Procession of the Species, the Dispute Resolution Center of Thurston County, Thurston Community Television, and the monthly newspaper Works in Progress, and the Olympia Food Co-op is 30 years old. So we have a lot of track record in this community. We'll be looking at some of these examples. It turns out then that we really can empower ourselves and we can organize from the grassroots up to meet our various kinds of needs directly with people power. So we don't need giant corporations or other big formal systems. We can create our own solutions. So this month's program will feature 4 of the organizations that are real success stories in our community, and I'm happy to welcome guests who represent these organizations. We have Deborah Vinsel from the Thurston Community Television, the place that's producing our program with us, and we appreciate TCTV's support.
My pleasure for being here.
Deb is TCTV's executive director. She has 27 years of experience in community TV, and she's helped TCTV become much more strong and active than we were when we started. So good to have you here, Deb.
My pleasure.
Mark Stojak is from the Tulip Credit Union. Mark is co-chair of Tulip's board of directors. He has experience as a community organizer, a mentor, and a policy advocate, and he recognizes that access to financial services is a human right. So good to have you here, Mark.
Thank you for having me, Glenn.
Mike Coday from Works in Progress is another guest here. He's participated for several years in the collective that produces our local community's alternative monthly newspaper, Works in Progress. Mike contributes a lot of fresh insights and wisdom and a lot of skill to keep Works in Progress a vital part of our community. Welcome, Mike. Good to have you here.
Always happy to get to talk to you, Glenn.
Thanks. And we have Adrienne Stewart from the Dispute Resolution Center of Thurston County. Adrienne volunteers as a mediator for the Dispute Resolution Center, the DRC, and she also serves as president of the DRC's board of directors. She understands and practices the DRC's values, and she helps DRC serve our community in lots of ways. Thanks. Good to have you here.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So we've got 4 of many organizations represented here, and let's get into this. I mentioned at the introduction of the program that the experience that I keep hearing people express is we have all these big systems, whether it's corporate or government or whatever, that end up being kind of oppressive, and people feel squeezed and powerless and frustrated. Is that the sense that you hear from people that you're connected with, or your own sense of things? Anybody?
Well, I'll start. I think absolutely we hear that a lot. Media consolidation, pardon me, has been an ongoing problem, and there is a movement afoot in the United States, a media reform movement triggered by what people perceive as being big media, primarily commercial media, not serving the needs of people in their local communities. And so the media reform movement has been growing, but there have been community-based media in many different ways in communities that communities have been able to utilize for many, many years. Thurston Community Television is an example, Chaos Radio, Works in Progress, obviously, that all of these types of organizations are working to help offset what I think people perceive as being a loss of local information by providing the tools necessary to create information locally.
Right, and as they've been more profit-oriented, they've been trying to slough off on local reporting or news reporting in general, and so there's a real deficit of actual reporting.
Yeah, and you know, commercial media, it is commercial. It is designed to make money, and when things are not profitable, changes are made that often are to the detriment of the information flow that we need.
Right. Mark?
And Glenn, you know, I'm representing a financial institution, so you know, Deb was mentioning media. One of the greatest, one of the similarities to what she's talking about is that the large companies, large conglomerates of financial institutions, you know, it's easy to say that right now there's a huge economic slump and people are feeling that in a big way. And so, but I represent a financial institution that is becoming more of the norm and is going to become more of the norm as we move forward, that focuses on supporting people who have lack of financial access. And so, you know, there's the way our economy is set up right now, I'm not sure how sustainable it is, and people are feeling that. And you know, everyone, a lot of the political talking heads are talking about a lot about that, but I think very few of them are feeling it yet. And so but the people on the ground have been feeling it for a long time.
Let's take a few minutes with each of the organizations that you represent and find out, you know, who you are, what you do, how all that stuff works, and then after we've had a few minutes for each of them, we'll come back and do a more conversational thing that we'll look at different dimensions of this. So each of you works with organizations that really do meet people's needs with grassroots people power. So Deb, how does TCTV address the problems that we're talking about?
Well, one of the beauties about community media and Thurston Community Television is that we are the most local form of electronic television media that I think you can find. We provide tools, training, and transmission to members of the public, individuals, organizations, also to our local government agencies and municipalities in the county, so that these very powerful tools for communication can be used by the individual, by the organizations, by the government agencies to get information out to the community. So people can talk to each other, they can talk to their government, they can see what their government is doing. And that is hugely different from what mainstream commercial media does. We've been doing this for regularly programming for 25 years. It very much was a grassroots movement that put us together. And because the Thurston County, the greater Olympia area, uniquely is the only capital city in the United States without a television resource that's of a broadcast affiliate. So here we are, a capital city with no broadcast affiliate, and how does our community utilize this tool? It came together and created this phenomenal organization, Thurston Community Television, to fill that gap in our information infrastructure.
And I want to put in a plug for each of the organizations' contact information, so people can phone TCTV at 956-3100 and find out how they can connect, how they can plug in, how they can help, how they can get training, how they can produce media, and all that good stuff. And we'll be talking some more about that later on. And you have a website, which I just looked at again. It's a new really a pretty purple.
Yeah.
It's an interesting
It's
layout.
It's been just redone recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's at tctv.net.
.net.
So very good, thanks. Among the 4 organizations that we're featuring here, yours, Mark, is probably the least well known. It's the newest of these and probably least well known. Probably a lot of people don't know about the Thurston Union of Low-Income People, Tulip, or the fact that you have a Tulip Credit Union. So tell us about Tulip Credit Union.
Well, as you mentioned, Thurston Union of Low-Income People, I mean, that says a lot in the title itself. We're an institution that is focused on people who have been disenfranchised by our financial system and who are looking for that financial voice in our society. You know, the history of our organization, a brief part of it is people were inspired to push back against the payday lending institutions, and that was a major driver for people to come together and say, how can we curb this? How can we have a different force, a different way from this predatory lending and this predatory way of doing business? And a really remarkable group of people came together 5 years ago and put this organization together. And I'm coming in 2 years into it on the board, and I've seen a remarkable shift. You know, in any startup institution, you have the grassroots folks that get it started and have that initial energy, and they've really done a great job. And they've handed us something here that is really going well, and we're really got a lot of professional expertise in our organization. So what we do for the community specifically, we have a wide range of services, which you know, of course, are loans. We have personal loans, which are anywhere up to $2,000 for people to use. You know, oftentimes more and more they're using it to pay bills these days. To kind of stave off the next round of bills and trying to keep up with things. But it can go into things, I've seen people investing in lawnmowers for their lawnmower business or things like that. So not only are they using it to survive, but they're using it to create more capital for themselves. Another thing is we have auto loans, which are up to $25,000. We can lend out for auto loans, and that is a very attractive thing for especially low-income people who are buying used vehicles and things. It's a great way to have access to a vehicle and to finance that. And then something that's making its way and doing better and better by the day is our Enterprise for Equity program, which supports small businesses. So we have a mechanism where we partnership with Enterprise for Equity in Thurston County, who support small businesses, and we provide them capital to start their business. So it's a really remarkable thing to see people come together with these great ideas.
And because it's a credit union, it's owned by the members, so it's not like owned by some absentee stockholders in New York or someplace, and it's owned and controlled by the members locally.
Thank you for pointing that out, Glenn. I mean, it's you know, we're a Tulip cooperative credit union. So credit unions by themselves, and many people don't understand that credit unions purposely are different from banks, where they're owned by their members, and they focus on what the membership wants, and they naturally have less risk because they're membership owned. And so you're actually, when you're becoming a member, you're a part of that organization. You have a share in that organization. And so we're a cooperative credit union, which means we are actively seeking out partnerships in the community with different organizations to build capital and other resources for people.
So it's in keeping with the theme of this program, it's a very profound way of doing democracy with your money.
That's right.
By sharing with people and helping to do it.
That's right. We're very proud of what we're doing. Yes.
That's great. Thanks. Mike, TCTV has been empowering people to use the media in a broadcast sense, or in the cable TV angle, and you're doing print media, which I remember how to read, and I enjoy your reading, and I enjoy your reading works in progress. And 20 years ago, people started producing works in progress, and it's still exciting and informative to read. So tell us about works in progress, and show us a copy.
Yeah, this is last month's copy, and we developed out of the...
Open it up and show the
developed out of the Rainbow Coalition and Jesse Jackson's campaign. Like you mentioned, we've been publishing the paper for 20 years. We're a nonprofit of about 25 volunteers. We distribute throughout the South Sound, and we try to provide a voice for the dispossessed, for marginalized. We will assist folks who want to write about their experience, and we'll help them connect up with photographers to help tell their story that way. We have content coordinators to help with the writing and interviews. We're very happy about printing the paper for 20 years. And
it's free.
It's free.
So I'm happy to get it, although I do contribute financially. You get people who contribute financial support as well as some ads.
Right. You can subscribe, and we'll mail you a copy. We're set up also to send the PDF by email, but mainly we're available around South Sound. You can pick us up at Traditions, at Voyeur, at
the porch at Media Island, the
That's
back
right.
hallway at the Olympia Library, and a bunch of places.
Evergreen State College, of course, and down south into Centralia College, and up north into Tacoma.
Yeah.
So we're trying to cover the South Sound and beyond.
Yeah, and it's always very interesting and exciting stuff and very often you scoop the Olympian.
We have managed to scoop.
You come out monthly and you scoop the daily,
and part
that
of
has
that,
professional staff.
Right, and part of that has to do with reaching out into the whole population, and the stories are out there, and where the mainstream press may not be as interested. People who are actually living the story, if with a little help and an opportunity to write their story and get it published, we can get it out more quickly than others. I think we did that with the John Towery story of the infiltration of our peace groups.
Yeah, the Army guy who was...
Correct.
You did that with the Olympia City Council members who got caught and exposed for their emailing and other stuff during city council meetings. You guys scooped the Olympian on that, and they came around later.
And we this month will be you'll be able to pick up our 20th anniversary. It's 32 pages. I think it's a really great retrospective look at our issues, and lots of articles over the past 20 years from basically a who's who of Olympia's activist population and community. So
yeah, that's great. And then you also have a website, www.olywip.org.
Correct.
Holy WIP. I should have mentioned your website too, the tulipcu.coop. And we'll be covering all these at the end in the credits, but I want to make sure people know how to connect with you guys as they get interested in all these organizations. We've got another great resource for the community here that people, it's just a natural part of life that people have conflicts and disagreements and things, and sometimes people handle them in bad ways. They either just like deny that there's a problem, or they just call the cops and give up their power to the police system, or they sue somebody and give up power to the courts. And the Dispute Resolution Center of Thurston County has a whole different way of how people can handle their conflicts constructively and effectively. Tell us what you folks do.
Well, we offer neutral mediation. I'm really proud of the work that we do. We started back in '91 or so, and have been going strong for about 19 years now. And so we offer a co-mediation model. There's other mediation models out there, but that's the one that we use.
And
basically,
that's two mediators?
Yep. So we use two mediators, and people come to us with whatever conflict that they are trying to work out or negotiate. And typically it's familial parenting plans or workplace conflicts, or we pretty well do anything. We're pretty versatile. So yeah, that's what we do. We offer the ability for people to be empowered in a way that makes it so that they don't have to use the court system should they choose to. And to do that, we require that they come to the table in good faith. To sit down and be there with a true willingness to seek a win-win for both parties.
Yeah, and when you've done that, and each side is treated respectfully in the setting that you create, and they can work out with a win-win, you have a much higher rate of compliance, that people actually follow through and do what they said that they would do in that arrangement, rather than other settings.
We really do. Yeah, we've got about an 80% success rate with the plans that we write up for whatever it is that people are needing help with.
And then, and then people learn the skills that they probably could start to apply a bit more in daily life.
We provide a
fresh
pretty
insights.
Yeah, we provide a, like you say, a pretty firm but respectful scaffold for people to come to the table and communicate within, and it also teaches them not only how to do that, but also that they can do that.
And that ends up being empowering for people, because they're part of the solution instead of having a judge or a police officer or somebody just impose something on you.
Right.
So it's much more empowering. All of the things you're doing are empowering, and that's the theme of our program. Some of the organizations especially seek out and help people who have been disempowered by the mainstream thing, and certainly a credit union for low-income people would seem like an anomaly in the financial world, where it's these big shots in the Wall Street wheeler dealers and the business tycoons that run the economy. But you've deliberately set out your mission to provide financial services to low-income folks. How do you do that? How do you go against the grain?
Well, it's, you know, by going against the grain, we definitely create a lot of commotion sometimes. But what we do to go against the grain is we seek out those partnerships, as I mentioned before. We go to the larger credit unions, and we use them as our partners, and we can partner with them and see what we can help them with and what they can help us with. And by having some of those bigger names along with us, it gives us some more credibility, and so where people aren't as hesitant to get involved with us, because it's understandable, depending on how you look at the world. Our organization could be an affront to your values potentially, but we're doing our best to try to break down those barriers for everybody, and to see that the affluent have what they have, but they can also share it with others and make have everyone prosper.
Yeah, no, you said that access to financial services is a human right, and that's way different from what you get on the business page of a local newspaper.
Yeah, no doubt.
Where and you mentioned just a moment ago about your collaboration with other credit unions. So credit unions really do help themselves. I know on your website you talk about you've gotten help from other credit unions, and you wouldn't get that from banks. I mean, you wouldn't get some bank helping their competitor, but credit unions are supportive.
Yes. I mean, and to some banks' credit, we do have a few banks that have partners with us. So it's not, I don't want to pick on banks totally, because there are some out there that have their community in mind, and so I don't want to sound so generalized in that way. But the credit union community was founded on the principles of supporting their community and supporting the people that are their members, and so that's a totally different model.
And is it true that 70% of your credit union's members are low income?
That is true.
Yeah,
that is true. And so we're meeting, as with many nonprofits, and we're very good at meeting our mission. But we also are working to balance some of that. Keep that good ratio of people that we're helping, but also bringing the more affluent to our table, because then that will help to really balance the scales.
And then you also provide some services to help people who need help with their budgeting or their financial management in their own lives. So that's a great resource that serves the marginalized.
Part of our mission is to promote financial literacy, and so we've partnership with housing authorities and with apartment complexes and other nonprofit organizations in the community that are interested in educating their members on how how to be financially responsible. When you get that $1,000 loan, or you have your bills to pay. How do you make that happen? And how do you keep track of it in a way where there's very little chance that you'll be in a hole later on in your future? So
thanks. Yeah, and Mike, I know that part of Works in Progress heritage for the full 20 years of your existence is coming out of the Rainbow Coalition is respecting diversity and making sure that people who've been disenfranchised by mainstream news media have a chance to be heard. Right. So tell us about that.
Well, I think we carry more stories written by the homeless population or the houseless population, as a recent contributor put it. He said, I have a home. I grew up in Olympia. Olympia is my home. I don't have a house. And we ran a center spread a few months ago with his story, and that's Tate Wilson. And of course, we've covered Camp Quixote and have been supporters of all sorts of services and respect.
Welfare rights you've been covering, and just everything.
We cover mainly local stories because most of our stories are generated from citizen journalists, but we also have people who were writing and volunteering and working with Works in Progress 10 years ago who've moved on and are living elsewhere and still sending us their stories now. So we have some alumni who are our roving reporters.
Yeah, but they still have that Olympia spirit in them.
They do, and they want to stay connected to Olympia, and a few in particular. We're always happy to see their submissions and know that their friends here are staying in touch. And it is a way to knit us together. And Works in Progress is a great vehicle for that.
Yeah. So and again, it's the voice of people who otherwise aren't heard, and those folks are not well represented in mainstream print media. Correct. They're not writing for Time magazine. They're not writing for other publications that we will or will not name. Those are, I think that's part of the sense of, if we want to have a vibrant democracy that really means democracy, we've got to make sure that we do some affirmative action to make sure that disenfranchised people, marginalized people get their financial needs met, get to express their issues and their voices.
And the print press is very similar to the other media, in that the consolidation of the print, the newspapers you can pick up, there's not a lot of different viewpoints.
Right.
So the only way really the best way, it seems to us, to confront that is to do what we're doing, which is print it from the grassroots, print it from the people. Yeah.
Another aspect of having a profound democracy is to increase people's abilities to do whatever they want to do. Right. And I know TCTV does a lot of training, and the Dispute Resolution Center does a lot of training. I mean, that's how you function, is you rely mostly on volunteers, and you train, both organizations train them really well. Tell us about the training at the DRC.
I don't mind bragging about this. I'm really proud of the trainings that we do. We have an amazing training manager, Oriana, down there at the DRC, doing really great work. And we do a wide range of training to pretty well anyone. We trained 500 people in 2008. And so we train them in conflict resolution, and some of them they come back and they volunteer for us, that we put them through an apprenticeship program.
To become a mediator.
To become a mediator. Yeah. And so, we train anyone from teenagers to, on up the age scale. Yeah. And we train we do custom trainings, we do 40-hour, the basic training that we offer. We do facilitating effective meetings. So whatever it is, we're pretty flexible, and I'm very proud of that.
And you have a particular need at this point, as I understand, to have more men participating and more people in the younger age bracket?
Yeah, we can always use anyone who's willing to come and volunteer, and it would be nice to have some more fellas and some younger folks too.
Yeah.
I want to say that we are always happy to have anyone who is willing and able.
Yeah, and TCTV has been relying on the training you've been doing to create all the good stuff you create. Tell us about the training.
Well, everybody on the crew tonight is a community volunteer who's been through our training. And I think it's important to point that out, because without community volunteers who are members of TCTV who have come to go through our training, probably about 90% of what you see on our channels would not be possible. So yeah, we provide training in digital media production, from concept to creation and editing in either studio production or digital field production, to folks who become members of TCTV. It's a small membership fee and a small training fee, but after that's done, you have access to our entire facility and the equipment that we make available, so you can create programming. And we train probably in the neighborhood of 300 to 350 people a year in a variety of different capacities. So, so thank you to everybody who's on the crew tonight, first and foremost. We appreciate you being here for this. I was struck when I was listening to the conversation so far, as we talked about people being disempowered and disenfranchised, that I find that people feel disenfranchised and disempowered when they are not heard, or they believe they're not being heard. And part of that is giving people the opportunity to tell their story. And as I sat here listening to all of us, truly, we are all involved in helping people to tell their stories, so that they can move themselves forward, move their community forward. And we just have different mechanisms for doing that. So, I think that a lot of the systems you've talked about and brought up put up roadblocks to people so that people can't tell their story. And when you can't tell your story and you're not heard, that's when you feel disenfranchised. So many of these grassroots organizations that we've talked about, and others that we'll bring up later, are all truly in the business of helping people tell their story in one way or another.
Yeah, that's an inherent part of the mediation thing, is where you speak from your own experience and what your actual needs are. What is that you really need? And so people have a voice there, and you give voice to young people. TCTV does some great work with young people. Tell us just a bit about that.
Oh yeah, we have our youth media program, the Young Producers Network, is growing. It's growing and changing, but we've had young people involved in a variety of different ways. From all walks of life. The youth media program started as outreach to street and at-risk youth and has evolved. So we've offered training programs for young people in the summertime in kind of a camp format. We have outreach programs currently at the Evergreen Vista apartment complex with their after-school group. We're in the process of evolving the Young Producers Network so that we can reinvigorate that outreach to the street and at-risk youth, primarily in the downtown Olympia area, since that seems to be a congregating point. But it is growing by leaps and bounds, and if you're a young person under the age of 18 and you want to learn about digital media, this is a good place to do it.
Yeah. Are there other aspects that we haven't yet addressed about how your various organizations are empowering people and promoting this vibrant grassroots democracy? I know we've covered a lot of aspects, but there may be some we haven't touched yet.
I think you were talking about the experience, the emotional experience of thinking that you're oppressed, that you can't make a difference in the world, and that we're working with agencies and organizations that give people the opportunity to do that. But we're also the people who are doing that, and it really is the way to overcome the sense of powerlessness, is to go ahead and get involved. And with Works in Progress, we're a very diverse group of folks who. To a large extent, this is the work they really want to do, and it drives them, and it makes their life more meaningful. And if we can get the paper out and people read it, and we connect up and we can build on that, that's just more more power to it. But it really is the firsthand experience of being involved, and I think I'm hearing that from all these that. That's the key, is that we bring the people in and that we treat them with respect, and we give them the tools.
It's also reinforcing when somebody says, "Oh, I read your article." I'm getting that. I just have an article in the current issue about what the healthcare reform legislation really was about, and what the pitfalls were, and what and all kinds of people said, "Wow, I read that article. That was good."
Yeah.
So,
One of the things you mentioned, empowering people, and one of the things we're able to do at Tulip is listen to those stories. I mean, you're putting the stories out and having them voiced. Our staff is able to spend the time, that extra time with people, to explain what it is our services are, what they can provide, how to take the steps. And we're not just doing financial literacy outreach, but we're doing financial literacy when people sit down with us and with our staff. And that is something that you don't get it everywhere. There's an expectation that you're supposed to have already have an understanding of what the language is before you walk in the door. In our organization, we'll meet you where you're at and listen to your story and find out what it is that fits best for you, rather than the other way around. Not how you're going to fit into our organization and make a lot of money off of you. We're not interested in that.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
I was just going to add to that to piggyback on all the great things that have been said already. That the Dispute Resolution Center has also. In the past few years, been helping to educate our volunteers, to educate our legislators, who have been very open and receptive to us, and letting them know, the legislators themselves, just teaching them about what it is we do, how we fit into the community, how we empower not only the people that are involved with us directly, but our community at large. And so we have been able to educate and communicate with folks and show them how they can be directly powerful.
And you also, when we were on the phone, we had phone conversation with each of you to talk about what you might want to say during the show, and you mentioned sort of that ripple effect, how things ripple out from one point. Tell us just a bit about that.
Yeah, I think it was contextual, and we were talking about how I got involved with it personally.
Right.
And I suppose that I feel deeply that peace starts in the home, and I was looking for a way to be able to have my voice heard, and stumbled upon mediation accidentally, really. And so that's kind of the metaphor I use. It really feels just so powerful, like throwing a pebble into a lake and just watching the ripple effect. I see it. You see it at the mediation table when you're helping people, because we're neutral mediators. We don't take sides. It's not arbitration. We're simply there to empower people to arrive at their own solutions, which, like you say, has an incredible amount of buy-in. And they're usually more unique than ones that could be handed down from the court, as you can imagine. So just watching that is very powerful, because you see it as they leave, and you see it in your community as well. So.
I think, Glenn, that kind of the overarching topic tonight is building a profound democracy, and I think that happens when people have a way to connect one to the other, and also have a sense of connection with their community. And our mission at TCTV literally states communication resources to build a stronger community. We see as our role empowering people, utilizing the tools of electronic communication to help tell their story that will then help connect them to the community, which will then build a stronger community. And that's, all of us here have that in our missions to connect people in a way that helps to make the community stronger.
Yeah. And Glenn, you'd be surprised. I've been privy to meet a lot of our membership. Some really wonderful people, and it's we mentioned earlier that it's a lot of low-income people, but it's also we have elected officials that are members. We have members. We have people from TCTV that I just met that were members. So it's really remarkable. There's downtown business owners. So these are real people. These aren't just the numbers that we're counting. I mean, these are people that are interested in putting their money somewhere else, doing something different with their resources, and that speaks for itself. I mean, we're all representing that in our different ways, and we're really making a difference by including everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
There's something that longtime Olympia folks sometimes refer to as there's sort of an Olympia way of doing things, and it has to do with what you're talking about, where when our community functions at its best, we practice some very profound democratic values, and there are things like transparency and broad public participation and inclusiveness, make sure everybody has a voice, an environmental consciousness, sustainability, cooperation, collaboration across organizations, and the kinds of things you're talking about are part of what people sometimes refer to as the Olympia way of doing things.
And don't forget to mention the procession of the species.
There's
just
another one.
Absolutely amazing that a non-commercial event like that takes place here.
And it's been copied elsewhere around the world. And where else could you have a parade with thousands of people and tens of thousands of spectators, and there's no float from Pepsi-Cola, and people don't have to wear T-shirts saying "Buy a Chevrolet" or whatever. It's non-commercial, but it's creative, it's environmental, and it's very grassroots.
Well, and part of that is organizations like all of ours, like the Procession, like the Olympia Food Co-op.
And Chaos Radio.
Yeah, and Chaos.
All these wonderful.
We do what we do purposefully.
Yes.
Our purpose, our mission is to do what we're doing the way we do it, and I think that is what helps to build the Olympia way of doing things. Is with the Procession, there's not a float from Pepsi because they purposely said this is how this is going to look and feel and be as a reflection of what it is we're trying to do to connect our community with the environment and with each other through artistic expression. It's a phenomenal concept.
Well, and you folks are a cooperative, and so is the Olympia Food Co-op, very consciously.
Yes.
Your folks are a collective, and you have certain ways that you do things where it's like the medium is the message kind of thing. The ways that you function are part of your mission in doing the work.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
With Works in Progress, we're an entirely flat organization. There is no hierarchy. It's all volunteer members, and we organize ourselves through regular general meetings a couple times a year, and hash things out and talk about the tensions about producing a paper versus letting folks have their voice, and it's an interesting model.
Yeah. One of the difficult realities of being a nonprofit group is you're always short on money, and I wonder if like the giant corporations have lots of money, and the Pentagon has more money than they can use wisely. Small nonprofit groups like yourselves are always struggling with inadequate resources. What are there ways that you find of funding to meet your needs that make sense, that are workable?
Well, you have to get creative. And we, like any bare bones nonprofit, we have a pretty talented, creative bunch of people. I'm so thrilled to be working with them. But we have fees for service that we charge, and we also we charge for trainings as well. We actually charge on a sliding fee scale, so we don't turn anyone away for an inability to pay. And we also do lots of fundraising.
I've been contributing every year since as long as you've been around.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, we have a variety of ways by which we're funded, and we're also we're always looking for new ways and ways to save money and so on. So.
Yeah. In Tulip as a financial institution, we're actually considered a community development financial institution, which is a special designation by the federal government. And so that in itself allows for us to apply for grants and things of that nature. But like I mentioned before, the most powerful thing is going out to the community and seeing who it is that would like to take their car loan, for example, and bring it to us. And that creates more capital for us to lend out to the folks that are in a pinch and that really need some cash right now, and we can do that responsibly. And so, but then, like I talked about before, partnerships. There are different financial vehicles and ways that we can bring capital from those partnerships, from those other credit unions, to help us out. I think we're fortunate in a way that we have a diversity. You know, diversity is the key, really, in making sure that we're financially viable. So it can't just be any one source. As most nonprofits should know that you can't have just a few sources. You got to have a lot of them. So.
Yeah. We're largely financed through our advertising, and we also have the opportunity to generate a fair amount of donations when we cover the issues correctly. And that's happened for us over the past few years when we've been focused on the artesian issue and particularly on the isthmus, where Janet Blanding did a really wonderful job of covering that and I think generating change in the community. And through that, we ended up with a significant number of donations, which allowed us to grow the paper, and we're up to running normally 12 to 16 pages. Our 20th anniversary is going to be 32, which is going to blow through a significant amount of our reserves. So we're busy working on some bake sales and some the usual means to generate and replenish our basis for
but I hope
printing.
people will be encouraging other folks to subscribe and donate as well. So
the subscriptions are great. They definitely help us keep printing from month to month. So we appreciate and thank our folks who subscribe.
Yeah, or if anybody knows of a way to advertise, if somebody has a business or some other thing that you could advertise in there, that helps. And then you get an odd source.
Well, I would have to say that TCTV is a fortunate nonprofit, and we all know that. We actually came into existence from a grassroots effort, but our primary source of funding is contracts that we have with the local municipalities, Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, and Thurston County.
Because you're providing good services for them.
Well, and it was, in 1986, the city of Olympia was the first to take the leap of faith and say, we really do think a television resource is necessary for us to be a vibrant community, and we're willing to help start this nonprofit thing up. And the revenue stream that funds us is, we point to the revenue that is generated by the cable franchise contract between Comcast and the municipalities for use of the public rights-of-way. A fee is paid for that, and a portion of that funding then makes it through the general fund and back out to us. But it's not 100% of our need. We do generate between 25 and 30% of our operating revenue every year through all the same resources, the bake sales and the fundraising, and we haven't done a bake sale lately, but through fundraising exercises, we hold a big event at the end of the year, our big community talent contest, and looking for grants and all of those other ways, membership fees and contract services. So, diversity is the key. We really are trying to diversify revenue so we can make sure that as the gap grows in the budget, we have ways to fill it.
Yeah. What would you like the viewers to do? I mean, certainly use your services, watch TCTV and plunk some money down into Tulip to help spread it around the community, and read and support Work in Progress and get some training and use DRC services. What else would you like the viewers to do, whether from a self-serving standpoint or from the larger magnanimous standpoint of working for profound democracy?
Well, I think we want to make the point that this is your paper, that if your issue isn't being covered, it's because we haven't gotten your submission. And if you have concerns about whether you have the writing skills or whether you have, are going to be able to get the photographs and get them in a format that can look good in print, we'll help you with that. And it's a free paper, and we'd love to have the stories and get it out there. So I think that's what I really want the viewers to know is that this is your paper. It's free. Grab it, write in it, work with us.
Yeah.
Glenn, first of all, I want to say that if people are sitting on a car loan right now and they want a good rate, they should bring it to us, because that's it is literally a way to take it out of a big bank, put it into your community. You can take that loan and have that interest rate that's created to us. It's not going to us, it's going back into the community. It's a way to keep those dollars in the community and not on some yacht in Bermuda somewhere. So it's it's a wonderful mechanism. All you have to do is transfer your loan over to an organization, and you're doing something passively. You're doing something then great for your community. But beyond that, I mean, I think overall is to know that even though we're called Thurston Union of Low-Income People, and we might be thinking about getting away from that title and just calling ourselves strictly Tulip, because we are everybody in the Olympia community, and we're a lot of people. A lot of our 70% low-income people are working people, and so I would like the viewers to know that you're not alone out there, and there are resources out there. We've all been in that position at least once, or we could be in the future, and it's important to know that that we have resources, and if we don't have them, we can refer you to where to go.
I would just say that I would hope that folks use us first when thinking of going about resolving a conflict, and it's generally not hard to get people to come to us when we compare the fees, court fees, attorney fees, the legal process that can really preclude a lot of us from accessing resolution, from justice, from anything. So anytime you have the ability to come to the table and work out a peaceful solution with whomever it is you're needing to work it out with, I would just urge the viewers to come and give us a try first. That's what I would hope for.
Well, and I guess I would say, obviously, if you have a story, and everybody has a story, if there's something you'd like to share with the community, that certainly think about TCTV as that resource. But on that bigger, magnanimous note, if you have the heart and the wherewithal to make contributions to nonprofit organizations, please look locally. Certainly there are needs around the world that are huge that your money can help with, but there are needs in our very community here that your money can stay here and build our community. So give locally.
Yeah, and I know that having worked with 3 of the organizations, I haven't yet had formal dealings with Tulip, but I've worked a lot with the others, and it's all been very satisfying, and everybody's been really nice and very, very cooperative. Doing things the Olympia way.
Pretty easy to work with, Glen.
Yeah, well, but it's satisfying, which you don't get when you deal with, say a big bank or a big arrogant media entity of some sort. Well, I want to thank Deb Vinsel from Thurston Community Television, and people can contact TCTV at 956-3100. The website's www.tctv.net. And so thanks, and good luck on all of your efforts.
Thank you.
I want to thank Mark Stojak from Tulip Co-op Credit Union. I want to make sure people know it's a cooperative. The phone is 570-2292, and the website is tulipcu.coop. Thanks to Mike Coday and all the good folks at Works in Progress. They're reachable at olywip.org. That's OLYWIP.org. So that's a good thing to connect with. And thanks also to Adrienne Stewart from the Dispute Resolution Center of Thurston County. Their phone is 956-1155, and the website is mediatethurston.org. Lots of good folks, lots of good work done by all of these things. So we want to thank all the folks who've been watching. Modern American society really is dominated by giant impersonal systems with too much power and too much arrogance and too much control over our lives. When they're left unchecked, they disempower us and they crush the democratic spirit. So it's refreshing to see folks like these 4, plus all the other organizations we mentioned, Chaos Radio and the Olympia Food Co-op and the Procession of the Species and so many more, that re-empower people to meet our own needs, we can practice really profound democracy by creating human-scale organizations and running them ourselves. We can meet our own needs for food, financial services, news, entertainment, and problem solving. We can provide training and other resources to bring people together to build a sense of community, including the people who traditionally have been marginalized and left out. So altogether, we can build a vibrant society that respects our best values and that serves the broad public interest instead of narrow, greedy special interests. And so we featured Thurston Community Television, Tulip Credit Union, Works in Progress, the Dispute Resolution Center of Thurston County. We respect and appreciate the other good grassrootsy organizations like the Olympia Food Co-op, Chaos Radio, and the Procession of the Species, and lots of others that you can think of, but we don't have space to accommodate or time in 1 hour. We hope you'll use these organizations' services and join with them to help additional people meet their needs. For information about a wide variety of issues and activities that relate to peace, social justice, and nonviolent social change, contact the Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation at 491-9093 or our website www.olympiafor.org. We're all one human family. We all share one planet. We can create a better world, but we all have to work at it. And the world needs exactly what you have to offer. Thanks. A lot of horrible things to people and the environment, and big impersonal systems also include governmental processes like the Pentagon that conduct wars in defiance of public opinion and that also protect big business instead of the public interest. So the problems that we face often seem so huge and we seem so powerless. People have tried to promote peace and social justice and the environment and a whole lot of progressive change, but for decades and even now, big business and the government keep pushing us back. And as a result, a lot of people feel frustrated, they feel powerless, they feel despair and even depression. And people who want to promote some change just feel demoralized and often give up. But when we look around our local community here in Olympia, we find that many people have been successfully organizing grassroots nonprofit organizations that meet our needs, our political, social, economic, cultural, and environmental needs. We don't need to submit to big, nasty systems. We can empower ourselves and really strengthen a very practical kind of democracy. And so that's what we'll be talking about during this program. For example, the Tulip Credit Union has been operating successfully for 5 years. And some of the other local solutions that we have from the grassroots up have been operating for 15, 20, 25 years. The Procession of the Species, the Dispute Resolution Center of Thurston County, Thurston Community Television, and the monthly newspaper Works in Progress, and the Olympia Food Co-op is 30 years old. So we have a lot of track record in this community. We'll be looking at some of these examples. It turns out then that we really can empower ourselves and we can organize from the grassroots up to meet our various kinds of needs directly with people power. So we don't need giant corporations or other big formal systems. We can create our own solutions. So this month's program will feature 4 of the organizations that are real success stories in our community, and I'm happy to welcome each of the organizations that you represent and find out, who you are, what you do, how all that stuff works, and then after we've had a few minutes for each of them, we'll come back and do a more conversational thing that we'll look at different dimensions of this. So each of you works with organizations that really do meet people's needs with grassroots people power. So Deb, how does TCTV address the problems that we're talking about?
Well, one of the beauties about community media and Thurston Community Television is that we are the most local form of electronic television media that I think you can find. We provide tools, training, and transmission to members of the public, individuals, organizations, also to our local government agencies and municipalities in the county, so that these very powerful tools for communication can be used by the individual, by the organizations, by the government agencies to get information out to the community. So people can talk to each other, they can talk to their government, they can see what their government is doing. And that is hugely different from what mainstream commercial media does. We've been doing this for regularly programming for 25 years. It very much was a grassroots movement that put us together. And because the Thurston County, the greater Olympia area, uniquely is the only capital city in the United States without a television resource that's of a broadcast affiliate. So here we are, a capital city with no broadcast affiliate, and how does our community utilize this tool? It came together and created this phenomenal organization, Thurston Community Television, to fill that gap in our information infrastructure.
And I want to put in a plug for each of the organizations' contact information, so people can phone TCTV at 956-3100 and find out how they can connect, how they can plug in, how they can help, how they can get training, how they can produce media, and all that good stuff. And we'll be talking some more about that later on. And you have a website, which I just looked at again. It's an
ongoing problem, and there is a movement afoot in the United States, a media reform movement, triggered by what people perceive as being big media, primarily commercial media, not serving the needs of people in their local communities. And so the media reform movement has been growing, but there have been community-based media in many different ways in communities that communities have been able to utilize for many, many years. Thurston Community Television is an example, Chaos Radio, Works in Progress, obviously, that all of these types of organizations are working to help offset what I think people perceive as being a loss of local information by providing the tools necessary to create information locally.
Right, and as they've been more profit-oriented, they've been trying to slough off on local reporting or news reporting in general, and so there's a real deficit of actual reporting.
Yeah, and you know, commercial media, it is commercial. It is designed to make money, and when things are not profitable, changes are made that often are to the detriment of the information flow that we need.
Right. Mark?
Glenn, you know, I'm representing a financial institution, so you know, Deb was mentioning the media. One of the greatest, one of the similarities to what she's talking about is that the large companies, large conglomerates of financial institutions, you know, it's easy to say that right now there's a huge economic slump and people are feeling that in a big way. And so, but I represent a financial institution that is becoming more of the norm and is going to become more of the norm as we move forward, that focuses on supporting people who have lack of financial access. And so, you know, there's the way our economy is set up right now, I'm not sure how sustainable it is, and people are feeling that. And you know, everyone, a lot of the political talking heads are talking about a lot about that, but I think very few of them are feeling it yet. And so but the people on the ground have been feeling it for a long time.
Let's take a few minutes with Hi, I'm Glen Anderson with the Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation. The Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation's TV program explores a variety of issues that relate to peace, social justice, and nonviolent social change. In modern America, people generally recognize that giant impersonal systems have too much power and often they oppress us. These include big business corporations that do guests who represent these organizations. We have Deborah Vinsel from the Thurston Community Television, the place that's producing our program with us, and we appreciate TCTV's support.
My pleasure for being here.
Deb is TCTV's executive director. She has 27 years of experience in community TV, and she's helped TCTV become much more strong and active than we were when we started. So good to have you here, Deb.
My pleasure.
Mark Stojak is from the Tulip Credit Union. Mark is co-chair of Tulip's board of directors. He has experience as a community organizer, a mentor, and a policy advocate, and he recognizes that access to financial services is a human right. So good to have you here, Mark.
Thank you for having me, Glenn.
Mike Coday from Works in Progress is another guest here. He's participated for several years in the collective that produces our local community's alternative monthly newspaper, Works in Progress. Mike contributes a lot of fresh insights and wisdom and a lot of skill to keep Works in Progress a vital part of our community. Welcome, Mike. Good to have you here.
Always happy to get to talk to you, Glenn.
Thanks. And we have Adrienne Stewart from the Dispute Resolution Center of Thurston County. Adrienne volunteers as a mediator for the Dispute Resolution Center, the DRC, and she also serves as president of the DRC's board of directors. She understands and practices the DRC's values, and she helps DRC serve our community in lots of ways. Thanks. Good to have you here.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So we've got 4 of many organizations represented here, and let's get into this. I mentioned at the introduction of the program that the experience that I keep hearing people express is we have all these big systems, whether it's corporate or government or whatever, that end up being kind of oppressive, and people feel squeezed and powerless and frustrated. Is that the sense that you hear from people that you're connected with, or your own sense of things? Anybody?
Well, I'll start. I think absolutely we hear that a lot. Media consolidation, pardon me, has been